Welcome back to another Shields of Shame video, everyone. I hope you're well. On the night of November 19, 2022, Portland, Oregon police chased the wrong car. The robbery suspects they were looking for were white, but the man they shot was black and running for his life. Within seconds, Officer Chris Sathoff raised an AR-15 and pulled the trigger. Immanueal Jaquez Clark-Johnson was hit in the back. He passed away 2 days later from those injuries. All of the case files are available in the link at the pinned comment at lamecops.com. Some of the contradictions that were found while reviewing all of the interviews by the officers that were on scene who gave an internal affairs interview. First, the suspect description. The 911 caller clearly stated that the suspect was white.
Okay, white, black, Asian, Hispanic?
White.
Okay.
Definitely white.
Sathoff said he didn't register race. Others said description was known. This undermines reasonable suspicion. The weapon observation. Sathoff perceived a digging motion. Every other officer saw no weapon, and that undercuts deadly force justification. Force warning. Sathoff claims he gave one. Jackson and Cox report they heard none. That questions procedural compliance. Lighting and visibility. Sathoff said low light. Others described the scene as well lit by units. And this affects the credibility of Sathoff when he made the statement that he couldn't confirm the identity. Immediacy of threat. Sathoff says imminent threat was posed. Others describe the suspect as running away. This contradicts constitutional standard under Garner. Coordination and communication. Supervisors note confusion over Air 2's directions. Officers believe they were chasing different targets. Suggests systemic failure, not individual split-second misjudgment. When I heard about this story, I immediately filed for open records request to the Portland Police Bureau, and months later I received all of the case files. Unfortunately, the department did not use body cams at that time. Body cams didn't come along until later on after that. The compiled interviews from the IA case 22-B-0049 paint a consistent narrative of misidentification, communication failure, and premature use of deadly force. While most officers stress confusion and adrenaline, the collective record reveals contradictions that weaken the justification for the shooting, particularly on suspects' race, presence of a weapon, and immediacy of threat. Supervisors themselves flag procedural and tactical deficiencies. The city of Portland agreed to pay $3.7 million to the family of Mr. Jackson. To me, that screams guilty. However, Sathoff wasn't charged with any crime. In fact, the department found his use of deadly force justified, which is absolutely insane. No real consequences happened here. No one was charged with any crimes, even though the coward Sathoff shot a man in the back. And also I want to send prayers out to the family who lost a loved one and did not get any accountability. Money does not replace your loved one. Sathoff should be serving a life sentence right now in federal prison for civil rights violations. None of the settlement money came out of his pockets, so he doesn't care. And neither does his corrupt buddies. This is Billy, signing off. Peace and love.
I don't understand how shooting someone in the back while they run away could at all be considered in policy.
I'm disgusted by how this has happened, and it continues to happen, that no officers were found in needing discipline or training, that this officer was patted on the back and given an attaboy and sent back out to do his duty.
All 12 voted in favor of settling the wrongful death lawsuit with the family of Manny Clark.
After extensive mediation, the parties agreed to resolve the claims in the lawsuit for $3.75 million.
On November 19, 2022, an officer still employed by the Bureau shot Clark with an AR-15 rifle as he was running away. The 30-year-old died at the hospital days later. And then after being shot, he was left bleeding on the ground.
It is absolutely chilling to me that it was 26 minutes after he was shot before assistance got to him.
If there were some unknowns and then there were some knowns, the knowns were that the people they should have been looking for were white men, and Manny was not.
The law says that the officers don't have to be right in the end, but they do have to act in a way that makes sense given what they reasonably believed at the time. There's no dispute that Mr. Clark's death is a tragedy, and frankly, it should anger us. It does me.
It just seems sometimes common sense is just not common anymore.
I guess I don't understand how one officer can't go administer aid while several other officers are securing the scene, because I've seen soldiers do that kind of maneuver in battle, in combat.
I would highlight, we're not in combat. It's not a military situation.
Can one of you please share what, if any, disciplinary actions took place for this officer?
And there was no discipline.
And is this person still currently with the Portland Police Bureau?
Yes.
I just have to say that when you watch that video, you see the officer step out of the vehicle with an engine block between him and the target. He's got the benefit of cover and a long rifle, and the target is running away from him. That is an unreasonable use of force.
This is a Shields of Shame exclusive.
911, what is the address of the emergency?
Hey, someone is trying to rob me at gunpoint.
Okay, what is the address?
Super Deluxe on Powell. There's 3 people in the car, and I'm in my car, and I'm going around in circles.
Okay, gotcha. Give me one moment.
Please hurry up before they shoot my car, if they do.
Okay, hold on one sec. How long ago?
Okay.
How long ago was this?
Like 30 seconds ago.
Okay.
And they fucked up my mirror, and we have cameras in the front of the store. And this is my work, by the way.
Oh, okay, gotcha. What color and kind of vehicle are you in?
Lexus GS 300.
Okay, what color?
Gray.
Okay, and older or newer?
2003.
Okay, are you in the parking lot right now, or where are you?
Yeah. I'm behind the store. Can you hurry, please? Something?
Where are the people who robbed you?
They just left.
Okay, did they leave in a vehicle or on foot?
They are in a vehicle.
Okay, what color and kind of vehicle are they in?
It looks like a fucking sedan of some sort.
Okay, what color?
I have the camera footage on the front.
Okay, what color is the sedan?
Bruh, someone tried to rob me at fucking...
Okay, I know. I already have the call set up. We just need to know who to look for.
I don't know what they look like. They just had a ski mask on.
No, what was the color of the car?
I don't know. I literally just saw these people rush.
Okay, which direction did they go?
Like, right on Powell.
Okay, gotcha.
Like going like.
So like towards downtown Portland?
Yeah.
Okay.
I exactly probably know the address.
Okay, and how many people were there?
It looks like 3 to 4 people.
Okay, did they all have guns or just one?
Just one that I know of.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, were they male, female?
Oh, they're all male.
Okay, white, black, Asian, Hispanic?
White.
Okay.
Definitely white.
Okay, gotcha. And then, what kind of gun was it? Did you see?
No.
Okay.
Fuck, bro. Damn, they fucked up my mirror.
Was it like a handgun or like a
like a
rifle?
Handgun.
Okay, gotcha.
No, it was a handgun. Looks like a Glock or something.
Okay, gotcha. What did you see what the gunman was wearing?
Just ski mask and like a black hoodie.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
2836 Colt Drive, the Wimbledon Apartments.
Okay, is there a unit number?
Sorry, I just heard gunshots and yelling out in front of my door. I was sitting on my patio.
Okay, hold on. So you're at 2836 Southeast Colt Drive, and you heard gunshots how many minutes ago?
Just 40 seconds ago.
Okay.
20 seconds.
How many shots did you hear?
I think I heard 3 shots.
Okay, and do you know which direction they came from?
They sounded like from maybe the parking lot, of the church next to me. It sounded like it came from by the dumpster.
Okay.
I just heard sirens.
Yeah, there's lots of police activity there, so just give me 1 second, okay?
He looked more to me like he was looking around trying to figure something out.
Why don't you guys come down here? We'll roll up with vehicles, do a high-risk stop on the suspect in the car, and we'll go from there.
This guy's walking very quickly to this car.
We're sending you 3 now.
Jump in with Spear, and 1 come in with me.
Okay, looks like all occupants are back at the car. Record.
Copy.
Occupants are back at the car.
Can 6 myself and 3924 are going to move up to make contact with the car and challenge it.
Hey, you guys are approaching from the west side of the church. We got spikes ready for the exit on the east side of the church.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Yep, they're running 2 front cars. One of the men is holding his waist, running northbound. 2 men, black males, dark clothing. All right, shots are fired. Officers are okay. 2 ran north. We have 2 still with the vehicle. Claim stay with the 2 that ran north. We will contact the 2 at the vehicle. At this point, we don't see anybody hit.
I need to
Great,
get around this building.
977, we've got 1 that hunkered down, it looks like, just behind a vehicle on Colt. Just east of 28 on Colt.
Hey, somebody on Colt Drive. Let's lock that down.
I'm on Colton 30.
Okay, we need whatever we can get here to lock this down. I think this guy's crossing over north side of Colt Drive now, about the 2800 block. The other 2 are still down. There's somebody down or laying down in the prone north of the car. Dispatch, whatever's to the north, let's just lock that down. This is a massive apartment complex.
Everyone en route to 2901 South
Schiller.
Hill Street.
Hey, Schiller.
It's on East Tac 1. And we've verified that shots were fired. The officers are all okay.
Schiller. Arthur Schiller. In the car on the west of us, or the east of us on, I think it's 717. Can you watch your lights on Colt?
I think this is our guy still. Okay, I think I might have this guy on the kind of the center of that big Wimbledon Square apartments. Still working his way north. It's kind of a tough spot to follow him though. So 30th and Colt, he's now north of Colt, working his way over to 30th through these apartment complexes.
Fight forward, 30th and Schiller. So we have that northern edge, but if you cut the east, we need to cover that area.
Okay, 6, we got somebody yelling, it sounds like for help north of us. I want to confirm, I know 1 black male or light-skinned black male ran north. What was the description of the second suspect?
The second guy was also a black male, dark clothing. And the second guy that bailed was the one reaching for something in his waist.
Copy. If you guys are comfortable, we have a female passenger closest to us to the southwest of this. We're going to go ahead and bring her to us and just start get her out of the mix, and then we can address the person at the car. And then after that, we can deal with the 2 outstanding.
Yes, they're in a farm too with that. Go for it. And we'll cover this guy in the car.
Hey, so the guy yelling for help, that kind of fits with the guy that I saw run just over the green space into the parking lot north of you guys, and then either fell down or laid down. I'm not sure.
How far is he away from the car?
Okay, hey, cop on 30th. This guy walking out to 30th, we need to stop him. So, in between mid-block Schiller to, what is that, Colt. Get another car here.
Dude, that guy's compliant. He's thrown out. Looks like they're addressing him.
Yeah, so he's compliant. Just need one more person with me. We'll figure it out.
He walked through a bunch of stuff in this apartment complex, but I'm pretty sure that's our guy.
Okay. Hey.
Once we resolve this with them, it'd be good to maybe do a canine track through the apartments.
Can 6, we have the female detained right now. Let me get a quick pat down on her, and then we can address the other.
Female detained at 045.
In there too, you still got another person north of you guys, north of the car, in that parking lot, laying down.
Okay, like where from our location?
So the guy north of the car, where are you at? Who's talking?
10-7. I'm just north of where the guy was taken into custody at.
Jerry, you're on 30th, right? North of Colt?
Correct.
Oh, you're good. I'm talking about the suspicious car in the church lot. There's a subject in the parking lot north of that, where Ken is.
And 294, just make sure we have AMR being staged for this.
Affirmative.
Chief, the only question I have is, earlier it was established that it was about a 23-minute window after the firing and then aid being administered. Can you just give us an explanation why that window was as long as it was, just so we understand? Thank you.
Yeah, so the officers had a couple of people in the car that they were still addressing, so they were taking them into custody. Another passenger was in the blocks, and so they had they were setting up a perimeter to try and have containment around that, not knowing if or who was armed. Once those things were taken care of, they quickly approached Mr. Clark-Johnson, and within about 4 minutes of making contact with him and hearing from him, they moved in, rendered medical aid, and summoned, a medic to come in. So
He's going to be northeast off the front passenger fender.
How many feet or yards? I just want to make sure we're safe to go deal with this.
Second passenger that we take into custody on our side. And how far north of this car is the other suspect? Are you saying like 3 or 4 car lengths?
Stay firm. Other side of the trees, basically. So a car length from those trees, on the north side of those trees.
Copy. We are going to have this passenger that's close to us then. We'll direct him all the way back to us, and we'll take custody of him behind one of our vehicles then. If you can keep eyes on the person in the parking lot, that'd be great.
Yep, will do. He's laying down, not moving.
All right, Ken Jackson, do you need more resources over there with you?
We need a cage car coming in from the south would be great.
That's on 5, I've headed that way.
And K97 to Air 2.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sounds like they have one person from the car. There's one person laying on the ground, a short ways from the car, and then the guy that we took into custody where I'm at. Do we know where the other person is, or if there's somebody else?
I'm only tracking those 3.
26. Who do we have outstanding? How many people?
There too. I saw a total of 3 leave the car. So one's at the car right now, one's north of the car, and one was taken into custody where Jerry's at on 30th north of Colt.
Yeah, 3 out of 4. So we need a couple more to stop, right? So we can get the person that's at the car in custody, and then we're going to try and loud hail and get to the person that may be injured to the north.
Dan, I think that we have 4 accounted for because one person laid down.
3-2-1, we're sending you 2 that way.
One person laid down out on the pavement, like in front of that car that's on the right side of your screen. I think that person is already in custody because they were talking about a female. There's another person
okay,
laying down at the suspect car. Then you've got this guy laying down in the other parking lot.
I was kind of focused on the 2 that ran.
And then the 4th person taken into custody further away. So.
Hang on. Hey Ken, I just sent you a photo of what I'm looking at, if that helps. It shows where you guys are located at, where the subject is laying down north of you in the parking lot, north where you guys are at.
Where Jerry's at on 30th north of Colt.
Yeah, 3 out of 4. So we need a couple more to stop, right? So we can get the person that's at the car in custody, and then we're going to try and loud hail and get to the person that may be injured to the north. 3-2-1, we're sending you 2 that way.
Hey Ken, I just sent you a photo of what I'm looking at, if that helps. It shows where you guys are located at, where the subject is laying down north of you in the parking lot, north where you guys are at.
That makes sense.
Yeah, 6, we have this second suspect calling to us. So far, he's cooperative and following commands.
I feel pretty deeply disturbed by how some of the facts were presented here, and I'm honestly sorry that the community had to witness how this was presented. The fact that we expect that our officers who are trained individuals should be given grace when they're making split-second decisions, but that our community members who are regular people who don't have any training, who have a rifle pointed at them or a gun shot, or police officers coming after them, are supposed to respond in a completely calm, rational manner, as if though that's not an extremely terrifying thing to have happen to you.
And there too, this other subject still laying down. I can see his arms moving like he's kind of holding his head or something.
We copy. Get there before we copy. We're just going to get this one in custody and work on that other one to the north.
Yep, copy.
Thank you. For you in 599 and 618, I show you all 3 responding to this. To the Shake Bar, 28 Northwest 4 Avenue, we have reports that a female is assaulting security guards.
Yep, go ahead.
If you're good with it, I'm going to ask them a couple questions just to make sure that we have this 4 accounted for. Because I kind of have it thought through in my head what I want to say. Is that all right?
Yeah, I think yeah, go ahead. I think I know what you're trying to do.
We've detained the second male.
I can see the prints of where another subject was, and that makes sense with the way you were saying. I was just fixated on the 2 running north, because they were going to break any kind of containment we had.
6 of the plane just confirming no change in the male that was laying down north of our location.
Day firm, still laying there.
Copy our plan here once we get all these custodies here.
I think we settle that once this is done.
We're going to move a couple vehicles out, swing them wide to the east so we can do some takedowns and try to observe where the person is and then potentially call that guy back to us.
And Ken, did you see the text, the photo I texted to you?
Not yet, I'll take a look at it though.
Okay, I mean that's what I'm looking at. That'll just kind of help you guys, but if you go to the east, that'd probably be a safe approach. So it's like 2 to 3 car lengths or car spaces to the east of where the stopped car is at, but north of those trees or arborvitae.
Copy, you might have to resend it, it didn't come through.
Copy.
Very quickly, we're going to close
I'm going to do form the custody team for this guy, Dan. When we are ready to approach, I just need really good directions on where this guy is going to be.
Yeah, you might as well make it ones.
Jesus Christ. Hang
And just quick information, we're going to close east to TAC 1 for this incident on 2-8 and Skeel. Regular east traffic is going to move to north TAC 1.
And Ken and Rich, I just sent that picture to both you guys.
Copy.
And just for reference, so the parking space that car is in, if you go 2 parking spaces to the east of that car, in between 2 and 3 parking spaces east of that car, but on the north side of those trees is where your subject is going to be. He's kind of north of those cars, in between them a little bit. I'd say we resolve this and we sort out
any indication
3
that
versus 4.
Injured?
Laying there like he's injured, yeah. Still moving around.
That was the direction that the 2 suspects fled, so there is a potential that he could be injured by a gunshot.
Yeah, affirm. This was one of the subjects that fled. I saw 2 break over that little green space there, just east of where that tree line breaks. And this subject fell, and he's been there ever since.
Yeah, that's fine.
Copy.
We don't have any central cars for you right now.
Cold drive, clear spotlight, we're blind.
It showed 2899 as a detail car. It's currently 10-8. I'm not sure if they walked off or not, but otherwise...
96 question.
Yeah, he's a light duty.
Yeah. He's busy. What's the question?
DCs are asking if the suspect specifically shot at officers or the other way around.
Follow him. It was the other way around. And we're going to move 2 cars up for cover and loud hail. We'll let you know when we're kind of in position. See if we can get a response from them.
Okay, copy. Yeah, it looks like he's kind of laying on the right side, maybe. So his head is facing north, right? Feet are to the south. And maybe he's facing west. So, head pointing north, if that makes sense.
617, not 369.
Yeah, 6, we moved 2 vehicles over. We're going to try to see if we can get a vantage point to see him, eyes on, and then we'll call out to him.
So the 2 cars that just moved up, the car on the west side of those 2 cars. Do you guys see that sedan parked facing south?
He put out a shelter in place notice, like a people don't have apartments and stuff.
Copy, we'll order shelter, please.
We have eyes on the suspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, 6, we are challenging him now.
Challenging.
Yeah, 6, right now we're getting no cooperation from him. No movement, no response. Are you, Dan, do you see any movement?
Not recently. There might be a little movement. It's hard to tell. He's got one arm kind of tucked in. It looks like maybe he's got his head rested on his right arm, facing west. Yeah, he's moving his left arm. I can't tell what he's doing with it.
678, sounds like the subject's right off this parking lot. We're close north from here for right now.
678, copy code 4 for now. Subjects ran off. It's 0059.
Do you guys have an ability to put more light on him?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're now communicating with him. He says he's injured and he can't move. We're working through a plan on how to safely give him medical aid.
And there too, if it helps, access to that parking lot is from Colt.
618. They don't want to press charges or anything like that. The female already left. They want us to do a loop around the parking lot, and then we're going to be clear. Copy. I want to press charges. Going to do a loop. It's 101.
Yeah, suspect now says he has been shot.
Heavy suspect saying he's been shot.
26, we have had staged.
Affirmative.
This was done with callous hearts. This was done in a way that dehumanized everybody in our community and robbed a family of their father. And I don't know how we're going to change this.
Questions like how an officer was able to see in the low light that Mr. Clark was making eye contact with, quote, an indication of confrontation and allegedly reaching for a weapon, but was not able to determine that Mr. Clark was black and not white, as the suspects were, while looking at his ungloved hands. There's a lot of issues that don't add up here. And the one that I wanted to highlight from the point that was made by a couple colleagues is, was brought up in the testimony that it's also the use of an AR-15 as a de-escalation technique. This is a haunting statement for me because the officer's actions were described in Damon Lamar Johnson's death in June as, quote, de-escalating him, as if de-escalation is something we impose on someone.
It looks like he rolled over, maybe to face east, extending his arms away from him to the north.
Yeah, I think we're moving up.
Copy, moving up.
I guess, Dan, the question to ask would be, ask the cops on 30th if the guy they stopped is associated, like if he is associated.
Yeah, we're really detaining this male and providing medical aid now.
Copy.
Because if that...
3929, suspect is in custody. Send medical up, please. And can anybody with the best possible information, how many do we have in custody? Is there anybody outstanding?
There are 4 ran from the car, and 4 in custody. We are good.
Copy.
And there too, the only thing I'd like to clarify is the subject that's in custody north of Colt Drive on 30th. I'm fairly certain that he is the subject that ran from that car with that group, but I lost sight of him in this apartment complex as he worked out to where Abel's contacted him. So maybe just work on that or shore that up a little bit.
Well, K97, did anybody get a look at this guy? Give us a description, or anybody at the robbery scene, if this is a robbery car, have a description of the people involved.
977, I was on the west side of Colt Drive, and the timing worked out from when Air Chief saw him and when I saw him break from the parking lot. I didn't see for a better description though.
The best description of the suspect with the gun was a white male, approximately 5'8", wearing a ski mask and a hoodie.
26, what's the address of this apartment complex?
All right, well, the tactical piece of this is over, so I'm going to stop
I
recording.
believe that
Item 19, pay settlement of Van Loo Fiduciary Services, LLC, as personal representative of the estate of Immanuel Jaquez Clark wrongful death lawsuit for the sum of $3,750,000 involving the Portland Police Bureau.
And I think we have a team for this one, so go right ahead.
Good afternoon. Kerry Caldwell with the City Attorney's Office. With me is Joe Jesse from RISC, Chief Day, and Commander Bell from PPB. This settlement relates to an officer-involved shooting from November 19th, 2022. Just after midnight that evening, an attempted robbery was reported at the Super Deluxe on 50th and Powell. The victim reported 3 to 4 men in a dark, unknown colored sedan. Dispatch broadcast officers to be on the lookout for a dark colored sedan with 3 to 4 people with at least one white male wearing a hoodie and ski mask with a gun. Shortly afterward, an officer saw a car consistent with the description of the suspect vehicle turning from 23rd onto Powell eastbound against traffic. The vehicle turned onto Cesar Chavez heading southbound at approximately 75 to 80 miles an hour. And the officer lost sight of it south of Holgate. Air support had been requested and it identified a rapidly moving vehicle near 29th and Steele. The air unit reported the vehicle entering the parking lot of the Reedway Friends Church and parking in a back section of the parking lot. Officers in the area convened at the entrance of the church parking lot and, based upon the report of an armed robbery, formed a plan for a high-risk stop. Officers approached the parked car and 2 police SUVs. Once near the car, they turned on their lights, stopped the SUVs, and an officer gave command to surrender. 2 occupants, one in the driver's seat and one in the front passenger seat, immediately exited and began to run away. Officer Christopher Sathoff reported that he saw the person exiting the driver's side reach towards his pocket and turn his head. Sathoff reported that he believed the person reaching for a gun, and so he fired on the individual, hit him in the lower middle portion of the back. The individual, Immanuel Jaquez Clark, died as a result of the officer's use of deadly force. Based on video obtained later from the Super Deluxe and the description of the armed suspects, the vehicle Mr. Clark was in was not the vehicle involved in the attempted robbery, nor was Mr. Clark armed. The attorneys for Mr. Clark's estate brought claims on behalf of the estate for excessive force and wrongful death against the city and Officer Sathoff. The attorneys representing the estate are respected civil rights attorneys who are familiar with the facts and law related to this case. After extensive mediation, the parties agreed to resolve the claims in the lawsuit for $3.75 million. Based on these extensive negotiations with plaintiff's attorneys, the City Attorney's Office and Risk Management recommend approval of the settlement. After Chief Day provides comment, I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Right ahead, Chief.
Good afternoon, Council. Bob Day, Chief of Police. Since I started in this role, I have consistently emphasized that law enforcement's first and foremost responsibility is the preservation of life. And I have stood at the scene of too much death and tragedy in this city in the last 23 months, and at every press conference highlighted the sanctity of life. And I believe that not only as your chief, but also as a fellow Portlander. Whether it be at homicides, traffic fatalities, overdoses, suicides, or deaths that are the result of police action. There's no dispute that Mr. Clark's death is a tragedy, and frankly, it should anger us. It does me. The decision that is often most brought into question and that I'm available for you today is why the officer was not disciplined for this action. That decision was mine. I'm required by law to be able to take that anger and that frustration and that loss and approach my decision-making from an objectively reasonable standard. The Portland Police Bureau directive states, in part, The reasonableness of a use of force is based on the totality of circumstances known by an officer at the time of action or decision-making.
Okay, white, black, Asian, Hispanic.
It shall be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene without the clarity of 20/20 hindsight after the event has concluded.
White, definitely white.
The measure of reasonableness gives consideration to the reality that officers are often forced to make split-second decisions in circumstances that are tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving. In the application or evaluation of the use of force, uses of the terms reasonable and reasonably in this policy refer to objectable reasonableness. The Police Bureau did not create that standard. That actually comes from a Supreme Court case that was unanimously decided in 1989 called Graham versus Connor, which was a police use of force. And what the court said is that when a police officer uses force, the law looks at whether that force was objectively reasonable. Meaning, would another reasonable officer in the same situation have done the same thing? The court actually says that we're to view this as if we were on scene. The judgment is made based on what the officer knew or believed at the time and not what anyone learned later. Officers often face situations that are fast-moving, confusing, and dangerous. They may not have perfect information. They might be dealing with someone who's acting unpredictably, refusing to follow directions, or possibly armed. In those moments, the officer has to make decisions quickly, sometimes in a matter of seconds, to protect themselves and others. The law says that the officers don't have to be right in the end, but they do have to act in a way that makes sense given what they reasonably believed at the time. This does not mean that this is a free-for-all, that officers have carte blanche. And the court went on to establish 3 key areas for the officer to consider and that I looked at as we looked within the policy of objective reasonableness. The first is the court has directed us to look at the severity of the suspected crime. Was it something serious or minor? In this particular situation, the officer was responding to a report of an armed robbery, which is a felony and considered a violent crime. The other thing the court asked us to consider is whether a person was resisting or trying to run away. Were they cooperating or not? When the officers tried to stop the suspects, the occupants in this car ran away, which made the situation more dangerous and unpredictable. And the third standard is whether the police officer believed the person was dangerous. Did the officer have a reason to think the person might hurt them or others? Because the call did involve the report of a weapon and fleeing suspects, the officer had reason to believe the person might be armed and be willing to use force.
Okay, white, black, Asian, Hispanic.
White.
Okay.
Definitely white.
Courts do not judge, and neither does Bureau policy, an officer with perfect information after the fact. Instead, they ask what a reasonable officer would have believed in that moment based on the seriousness of the crime, the behavior of the suspect, and the need to act quickly. This went through the traditional, very robust process that we have for reviewing these incidents. Officers on scene shared the same reasonableness belief that Officer Sathoff took action on. The PRB, which in officer-involved shootings is comprised of 7 members, 2 citizen members, 2 peer members, other officers, and 4 other members, including the IPR director, the assistant, 3 other members, the IPR director, the assistant chief, of operations, and the RU manager, the commander of the precinct. That vote was 4-3 to not sustain, believing that Officer Sathoff's actions met the reasonable standard. And then, of course, we have the grand jury, which did not return an indictment. With that being said, I want to emphasize in closing that we are not the same police bureau we were 3 years ago. This case came to my desk shortly after arrival in the fall of 23 and began to give direction immediately around our approach, particularly in the area of use of force, as well as specific to the rifle program that was used. The rifle was used in this. And I'll highlight a couple things and close my remarks. Our force numbers from 2024 to 2023 showed a decline of almost 7%, while at the same time calls for service increased 1% and custodies increased 5%. So with an increased amount of activity level in 2024, the Police Bureau overall force decreased 7%. Within the rifle program specifically, we've authorized additional training days and that training days are now based around scenario-based training, critical decision-making exercises, guided discussions about critical incidents, including this critical incident. The rifle program has a stronger emphasis now on decision-making, communication, and tactical judgment, while they consider both intent, means, and opportunity. Operators have a responsibility to ensuring safety during critical incidents, exercising effective communication, coordination, and judgment. And we reinforce the operator's role as an active contributor to peaceful and safe resolutions, not just a technical expert. Historically, I believe the rifle program did rely upon the technical expertise of the rifle operator, and we are now imploring them to be more of a leader in these situations, because the rifle does allow for distance, it allows for standoff, it allows for space, and when you have that, you have the opportunity to assess a situation differently and maybe reach a different conclusion. It's important to remember that we don't have to do anything wrong to strive to be better. And although situations like this are deeply saddening and frustrating, I want to assure you that the growth and development of the Police Bureau over the last 3 years, I think, will limit or hopefully reduce the risk of it replicating itself. Thank you.
Chief, anything additional? Okay. Colleagues, questions before we move to public comment? Councilor Murillo?
I don't have a question, just something more for discussion later.
Okay. Councilor Dunphy?
I have a couple of questions for our panel, specific to the details of the case.
Right ahead.
To whomever is able to answer these questions, do we know the amount of time that elapsed between when the officers entered the parking lot and Mr. Clark was shot?
I don't know the exact amount of time. I believe many of the counselors and their staff were able to witness that. It's a fairly short amount of time between the time that the officers stop and the time that the occupants of the vehicle begin to flee and then they shot.
Yeah. My viewing of it, and it's imperfect in terms of timing, but it seemed it was between 12 and 13 seconds between when an officer was in visible sightline of Mr. Clark and the other occupants of the vehicle and by the time Mr. Clark was shot. Is it standard operating procedure to open fire at fleeing suspects?
No.
Okay. Currently, PPB's use of force policies are considered constitutional at this point.
That's the problem. Your lines are blue. Draw them with red ink.
And the officer was found to be within city policy. Has any policy changed as a result of this incident?
I don't know that we have made some use of force directive updates, specific to this incident. More of the emphasis has been around the training and the development in the rifle program, and specific to also use of force.
What was the amount of time between when Mr. Clark was shot and when he received medical attention? And do we know if he was conscious while he was waiting?
He was conscious while he was waiting. The time was, I believe, somewhere around 23 minutes before he actually received medical attention.
With regard to the specifics of this settlement, can you please explain to me how the city pays for these types of settlements, and is that a best practice compared to other cities?
That's outside of my purview. I would defer, I think, in some level to risk in terms of that, but I'm not sure that we have the full information to respond to your question in the entirety.
More generally, can you explain that where the dollars from this settlement are coming from? Are they coming out of a supplemental insurance policy? Are they coming out of the Portland Police Bureau's budget? Is it coming out of the city general fund?
I would defer that to the risk manager, Patrick Hughes, and he is here today. So.
Patrick Hughes, nice to meet you, risk manager for the city. I believe I can answer your question because I still can remember it right now. We have an internal fund that manages settlements. That fund will essentially write the check to pay for such settlement, all the way down to all the way up. Then, over a space of about 4 years, through the interagency agreements, bureaus are charged what we call internally a premium, but it's a combination. That internal premium is for the fund, and it is asking for an allocation of your insurance premiums, your portion of that per bureau, what claims that bureau may have. That goes through a formula too. So that internal premium is slowly having affected bureaus who have claims reimburse that fund. However, in this case, we do purchase commercial excess liability insurance that covers all general liability and including law enforcement. Those policies come with differing deductibles or self-insured retentions. The police self-insured retention for a law enforcement liability claim is $3 million. So if you do the math on this case, 3.75, I'm just talking numbers, this is a very emotional situation, $750,000 just on the number side is coming from the excess commercial insurance carrier. So we will front the money out of the fund. We will gather that money back from the excess carrier for whatever level they get into past $3 million. At our internal cost, that gets put into that bucket too. So the insurance carrier in this case, I put that together with our settlement, the internal cost for defense, outstanding expenses. We are asking the insurance carrier in this case for $906,000 to be reimbursed to us under the commercial insurance scheme. But the $3 million is internal. It is not general fund in the sense that it's coming out of the IA charge. So I want to make that clear. It's not like a general fund bucket that we are pulling out of.
Okay. I mean, but most of the police bureau funds come from the general fund in the first place. And so this is considered as part of the broader budget of the PPB? Or all affecting bureaus broadly?
You've probably reached the end of my financial understanding. Okay. How they are paying the IA wouldn't be for me to ask.
Fair enough. Yeah. Is this a standard way of paying for settlements like this compared to cities of our size?
Certainly. This is a form of running an internal pool. And in one way or another, you have to buy insurance, pay for claims, and you have to reallocate it back in. Okay. So yes.
Is the $900,000 payment that we're expecting the supplemental insurance company to pay out, does that come with additional, is that going to affect the city's premiums? Are there policy levers that the insurance company does in response to a settlement like this? The closest analogy is if I crash my car, my premiums go up.
Yeah.
Is there a repercussion to the city for us having to draw from this supplemental insurance?
In a sense, the answer will be yes. It depends on the totality of, we're looking at a 10-year claims run when we're going to buy insurance. Multiple large settlements, yes, that will affect you either in premium or the ability to get coverage. However, it's not an individual case by case.
Okay. But the vast majority of this settlement specifically coming from the self-paid means that it won't, there will be no external party providing some level of accountability for our actions or demanding change in any sort of payment level or policy change.
Yes, if you're asking if the carrier is going to turn around and say we are going to spike your rates, I would say that is a very low chance of happening.
Okay.
In this case, would the officers have known that they weren't told this is the car? They were told this is a car that is doing certain things in this general vicinity. So would they have known that it wasn't necessarily the right car?
I'm going to defer to Kerry on that in terms of some of the details. He's a little more up to speed on that.
The car identified by the victim of the attempted robbery was a dark or unknown colored sedan.
Okay, what color and kind of vehicle are they in?
It looks like a fucking sedan of some sort.
Okay, what color?
I have the camera footage on the front.
Okay, what color is the sedan?
Bruh, someone tried to rob me a fucking...
Okay, I know. I already have the call set up. We just need to know who to look for.
I don't know what they look like. They just had a ski mask on.
No, what was the color of the car?
I don't know. I literally just...
The car initially identified by, I believe it was Officer Spear, matched that description. He called it a gray sedan. This vehicle, so Air 1 had come in, and it uses a camera that follows a heat signature. The engine, the heat off the engine signature indicated that this had been running very, very hard. And so to that extent, this vehicle matched the description as given by the victim, as identified by Spear, and then as seen by Air 1.
Okay, but the officers would have known that it was a pretty vague description of the vehicle, but it met this vague description and it was running really hard, as opposed to we've been told this is the vehicle.
Correct. There was no distinct identifying information provided that would have, like a license plate number or model and make or anything like that. So it was the suspicion of the actual vehicle, and based upon its behavior is why the high risk, the attempted robbery and then the behavior of the vehicle was why the high risk stop was made.
Thank you.
At some point, we're going to get every bureau saying we need this amount of money to retain the level of service you are getting this fiscal year into next fiscal year. Can we reasonably assume that that dollar amount for the police bureau will be $750,000 higher next year than it would otherwise be if we, based on whether or not we approve this settlement or not?
It's a good question. I don't know if we can assume that. We need to engage probably the public safety staff because, this is one of many. I can't tell you with a straight face.
Is this the largest police-related settlement for an individual plaintiff that we've ever had?
To give you an accurate answer, I would have to go back and check.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to say it is or it is not because I would have to go back and look at my claims runs, which I'm sorry, I just can't memorize.
Data that was sent to my office from Portland Cop Watch indicates that the largest police-related settlements we've ever had are 2.3 million, 2.1 million, 1.6 million, and 1.2 million. And those are the only individual plaintiffs above $1 million at present. So going from 2.3 as the current highest to 3.75, if that data is in fact complete, would be a very large change to the maximum we've ever paid out.
In my general recollection, I believe I would say those numbers are likely accurate, but I just can't say until I look at it.
We were given information from your office about what independent police review said at 2 stages in the process. Could you tell us what that was?
I'm sorry.
Chief Day, I have a question. I have a couple questions. I was listening to your testimony, and you said that you had the discretion to determine whether or not Officer Christopher Sathoff, whether or not he was in policy or not in policy, and you determined that he was in policy. And as I've been reading about this for the last few days, I looked at an article that said that the Internal Affairs did their own separate investigation. And Ms. Stacy Revinelli wrote in a 41-page report that you all were out of policy based on the 3 shootings that happened instead of 1. So can you tell me what is standard operating policy? Can you shoot 3 rounds and still be in policy or not? Because she seems to believe that the officer was out of policy and it was directly opposite of what you had indicated. And how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, and I want to speak to that in a moment. I want to give Commander Bell a chance to speak about the process in terms of just the administrative side. He's with the Professional Standards Division, and I'd just like him to identify her role and the purpose of that recommendation, then I'll speak to my conclusion.
Go right ahead.
Good afternoon, Jeff Bell, Commander with the Portland Police Bureau. So what the chief was talking about is, and I can give a very broad overview of the process, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to go into more detail.
I don't mean to be disrespectful, because I know we have such a short time, and we can take the time to have a work session for you to explain to us the process, but I'm trying to get to this point. One group of law enforcement officers say that he was in policy. Internal Affairs says he wasn't because of the 3 times that he shot. And it is my understanding that you're supposed to shoot, stop, reassess, and then shoot if necessary. And to be clear, Immanuel Clark-Johnson is his name. That's his official name. He was shot in the back, and he was shot with 3 rounds. And one of those rounds made him fall to the ground. And what I'm trying to find out is, when you have a difference of opinion from law enforcement, how do you reconcile whose policy is correct? Is Internal Affairs correct, or is the police chief correct? Was the officer truly in policy or out of policy?
Okay, Counselor, thank you for that clarification. And ultimately, it is my decision. I interpret the policy.
It's discretionary.
Yes, I interpret the policy. And in regards to the number of shots fired and the evaluation piece of that, we do have an expectation of that evaluation to occur. It is discretionary in terms of, how that works, whether it's 1 shot, look, 1 or 2 shots, and then assess to be able to articulate why the need was for the additional rounds. And I know that that particular investigator you mentioned did not see the need. I believe it was for the 3rd round, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. And
She didn't believe the 2nd and the 3rd round were necessary, and said that the police were out of policy, which would suggest why some of my colleagues are asking the question about policy. I don't believe connecting the policy to a settlement is particularly appropriate, because I think that we need to allow the opportunity for the family to heal and to go forward. But I do want to be clear, because you brought it up. And there are people who are listening to this, and they're going to say the chief said that he was in policy, but I want to make sure that the record is straight, that there was another interpretation of what happened by Internal Affairs, by Ms. Stacy, and I wanted to put it on the record. And I also want to put it on the record the fact that the 911 tape said that these were white men who robbed in that particular part of town. And we know that Manny is a black man, and we know that he had another black man in the car. And so for us to be so cavalier and say that we didn't have description of the car, but we did know the description of the robbers, and the robbers were white, and Manny is clearly black. Manny was running in one direction, and the police were following him. They assumed that he had something in his waist, and that's why they shot. But Manny was shot straight in the back. He didn't have an opportunity, and as for the record, when they checked him, he did not have any sort of gun on him. So I just want to be clear, because I was listening to it, and I was trying to close my eyes and listen to this, and if I would have listened to just your description of it, I would have had a different leaning toward this. But I want to be clear that there were some unknowns, and then there were some knowns. The knowns were that the people they should have been looking for were white men, and Manny was not. And he got shot 3 times. So the clarity that I need to be able to support this, because I don't want to have to make a decision on a settlement on a tragic case like this. But I think we need to be very clear on how we exercise our policies. We had a man the other night in Hazelwood, and we've talked about Hazelwood before. It's a really hot neighborhood in terms of crime. And he was up on a building. He's a white man. He had some mental health issues. And we talked him down, and we were able to get him off unharmed. But oftentimes we are hearing more and more about how unarmed Black men, mental health issues, running away from police, they're getting shot because people are afraid. And keep in mind, the reports also said that those other 2 officers that were standing next to the officer that shot, they had not pulled their guns. So when you make a discretionary decision, for me, I want you to consider all the facts, because there are some discrepancies, and that's why we're paying today, because someone died. And this was tragic, and I agree with you. What you said, to be able to have to talk about people in our community who's dying, who are involved with wrongful death cases as a result of the hands of the city of Portland, that hurts, and their families are hurting. But I want us, when we tell the record straight. Tell all the information, not just one-sided, that shows that you were correct in making the discretionary decision that you made. I may have made another decision, our risk management may have made another decision, but you had all the information in front of you. And so I don't know how to judge. How do you make those decisions when there's discrepancies from one law enforcement group to the next? That's all I'm saying. I don't know how to reconcile that, because I'm seeing some different facts about the case. And it doesn't move me that the grand jury failed to indict. That doesn't cause me to have a different thought. But what causes me to have a different thought is when your description and the other description are dramatically different. So that's what I can't reconcile with my heart. I would appreciate us having a bigger conversation in a work session so that I can understand, when you're making these decisions, how large your discretion is and what is in policy and not. And I don't want to get confused with force and ORS and that. I just want to, it just seems sometimes common sense is just not common anymore. And that's all I have to deal with, is my own common sense and what's right and what's wrong and what's in front of me. And when people listen to this and they see this, they want to understand, because all too often there are so many Black men who are getting shot in this community, and we're having to say the same thing every single time. So I appreciate you stepping into this and being really clear on what happened, but there is some other clear eyes as well. Thank you.
Thank you.